Good morning, boys and girls. Today, as our poem, we're going to read Betty Botter by Carolyn Wells. Betty Botter bought some butter, but she said the butter's bitter.
If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter.
But a bit of better butter will make my batter better. So she bought a bit of butter, better than her bitter butter,
And she put it in her batter, and the batter was not bitter.
So it was better Betty Botter bought a bit of better butter.
Betty Butter bought some butter, but she said the butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter better. But a bit of better butter will make my batter better. So she bought a bit of butter better than her bitter butter, and she put it in her batter, and her batter was not bitter. So it was better Betty bought a better bit of better butter.
So we know that Betty Botter had some bitter butter that she bought. But if Betty Botter had made her own butter, then perhaps it wouldn't have been bitter. So we're going to integrate some science into this literature theme by changing heavy whipping cream, and I have that here, heavy whipping cream into our own butter that we make with our students. This ties science in very nicely to this theme. You can demonstrate, even with the youngest of students, how you can change a liquid into a solid or semi-solid form.
Our first graders will love becoming human churns as they shake the jar of cream vigorously, either taking turns as a whole class or breaking up into smaller groups using individual baby food jars. And while they're shaking, we can reinforce components of rhythm, rhyme, and imagery with a musical chant or song that we can do chorally. Come, butter, come, churn, butter, churn. Anita stands at the gate waiting for a butter cake, churn, butter, churn. And this is something that we can do throughout the shaking process, which takes about 10 minutes of vigorous shaking. Now, our final product is butter. During the science experiment, we use a number of Gardner's intelligences, including linguistic, kinesthetic, visual spatial, logical, interpersonal, and naturalistic. And that concludes our delicious lesson in poetry that hopefully the kids will just eat right up.
Our Betty Botter poem is full of different ways that we can teach children to work with sound and with words. In our lesson, we're going to focus on 4 words: butter, bitter, batter. We're going to be working with 4 word families. The rhymes ut, it, at, and et. The onset is the B, b, b. But, bit, bat, and bet. This lesson can be used before the reading, during the reading, or afterwards. And everything that we're doing can be used as a whole class, to be used with small groups or with individual words. Butter, bitter.
Poetry is a great way to introduce children to the natural rhythms of spoken language.
We're going to do
Betty Botter is full of alliteration,
temperature sort.
rhyme, silly words,
Batter.
and we can teach a lot of different lessons using Betty Botter. Sound sorts are wonderful ways to engage children. They can collect word banks and practice on their own, or we could do this as a whole class or as individual groups.
Bitter. We can further extend the lesson of word study with homophones. Homophones are words that sound the same but are spelled differently and have different meanings. To introduce the children to homophones, we'll start with the word bat. A bat can be a device used to strike a ball, or a bat can be a small winged mammal. Bat, bat. Then we'll take it to the next step, which is the ending ter, batter. A batter can be someone who plays on a baseball team, or batter can be used in cooking.
Now we're going to learn how to make the uppercase B and the lowercase b for the word butter. So, boys and girls, what we do to make the uppercase B's, we start at the top line. We make a big line and come down to the base line or the bottom line. We come back up to the top line and we do a small curve to the midline. And then we do another small curve to the baseline or bottom line. For the small b, is we start at the top, we go down to the baseline with a big line. We start in midline and do a small curve to the baseline or bottom line. Uppercase B and lowercase b. Ba, Betty, botter, bot, butter, bitter, batter, better, butter. All start with the letter B. Ba.